simulations done in a subconscious state, which are incredibly realistic. We used simulators that essentially are accessing your brain and your cerebral cortex and giving you a complete virtual experience that's, all five senses as real as it could possibly feel, experience. So whether you're conscious or unconscious doesn't really matter in the process. You can still take someone through the process whether they're asleep or awake.
I know that you're in a dream state and you're training, but when they actually took you out of your body and you went to Mars, is that a way of fracturing the soul a little bit? Because a piece of that has to stay in the body in that timeline at Earth, and then you are going to Mars on a different timeline. Are you fracturing? Is that a fracturing of the soul a little bit?
No. To my understanding of it, no. What it is existing in two places at once. Mm-hmm. So there's a timeline. The first timeline is the one where I get deployed at 17 years old, and then I go through 30 years of tour of duty of service, 30 years, right, from here to here. But then they bring me back, and I do this over again. So while I'm doing this parallel journey of doing all of those years and over again, but I'm already older because my brain and my experience is still all in my head. So as I'm doing this, this timeline still exists in the sense that I'm still, let's just say it's 1994, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm over here. Well, I did this when I was in 1994, and I'm still there because I'm on another planet. So I'm not going to run into myself, so it's okay. But there is this weirdness about being in two places at once until I finish my tour and I come back. That's when the loop closes, and I'm actually only in one place at that current time. It doesn't feel like that. It still feels like a linear chronology. This line feels like my past, way in my past. And this timeline feels like my present, where I am right now. So it has a linear feel to me, but in actuality, there was a period of time for 30 years where I existed in two places at once.
Well, just jumping on the back of that, what you were just saying, so a lot of what your story and everything you have to say is, it sounds like it's based on these memories that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Did they all kind of hit you at once, or was it like a gradually you remembered more and more, or how did that work?
That's the funny part, is that there was always a trickle from the very beginning. So there were things that were always trickling through that I didn't have a linear context for. So like I said, I would just think, oh, that was a really weird dream, although it certainly might not have been one at all. Or it could have been an experience that was designed to be a simulation inside my dream, which still is the same thing as having an experience, to be honest with you. As far as your senses and your brain and your central nervous system is concerned, a simulated experience is just as real as a real experience. So They're the same as far as your brain is concerned. So when you train in a virtual experience, you're getting the exact same kinesthetic brain, mind, body, central nervous system training experience that you would get if you were doing it outside in the desert somewhere. It's the same. Still programming your kinesthetic neural muscle memory into your brain.
Like the Matrix.
So, it's like it's programmable learning. It puts it right into your brain.
Right. So we did a show recently where we kind of touched on MK Ultra stuff. What are your thoughts on the fact that some of this, all of it, could be screen memories to hide something else, or I don't know?
Well, I was engineered with a different process, for starters. I have discussed a little bit of the difference between the United States Marine Corps Special Section. Now, that sounds like too many Coronas, but it's not. It's one.
Too many Coronas.
United States Marine Corps Special Section policy on creating augmented soldiers was that the MK Ultra style trauma-based mind control techniques were not to be trusted because they reduce the lifespan, quality of work, and functionality of the subject itself. So the program that I was engineered under is simply not done that way. So I don't have trauma-induced sort of alter selves that were trained to do the things that I do that are somehow different than the me that is me. So I would say that, and I would even argue that of other people that I have spoken to who have done memory retrieval process, I don't know anybody that spent that amount of time over that length of years that I have to get that level of clarity. Most people I talk to still are working with bits and pieces.
Do you think that they're still doing that right now in the Space Force? Are they still genetically engineering kids now?
Oh, I guarantee that covert military space programs will continue to genetically engineer children into soldiers until they're legally forced not to.
Oh.
Because it simply makes the most effective soldier in the field for space travel, off-world travel, and function. So it just turns out that most of the terrestrials, sort of as they stand by being, really it has a lot to do with the world being kept in the dark. The minute that we let the whole world in on the whole thing, that, you know, there's aliens everywhere. Like, the minute that we let the whole world in on that is the minute that you stop having this, like, major trauma issue every time soldiers in any of the regular outfits end up crisscrossing with an extraterrestrial experience. It does happen from time to time that vehicles come down and or are shot, or in some cases by other, technologically advanced vehicles, and come down somewhere, and a military organization on the ground has to secure the site. I guarantee when that happens, those soldiers have to get whisked away to get debriefed and processed. And statistically, I can tell you that it traumatizes many of them horribly, in such a way that releasing them back into their commands or back into the regular reality without attempting to wipe the memory is actually kind of dangerous to the person who had the experience. Because if they have to go back to a world where they had an experience that no one else believes in, well, then they're constantly going to be wrestling with the I'm crazy, people telling them they're crazy if they try to tell people, no, dude, it happened, right? Like, that's this continued argument just because we haven't let in everybody in on the, yeah, it's okay if there's aliens everywhere. Like, the minute that we can officially let everybody in on that, then we don't have to have people who've had legitimate experiences be felt like they're being told and looked at like they're crazy all the time, because in fact they may be having a legitimate experience.
Well, that actually leads into another question I had, Randy. The current administration right now just basically opened it up for private industry to kind of go out into space and start mining the moon, asteroids and stuff. If that's the case, we're going to have a whole bunch of private citizens out there running into all sorts of crazy shit. What do you think's going to happen there? Are we going to just disclose before this happens and say, before you get out there, you should know that all this crazy shit's going on here?
I would suggest to you that we are in a multi-stage process in which each step, as you go from one stage to another stage of the process, changes the way in which we all get to register what is real and what reality is. And we're kind of bringing the whole rest of the world with us on this journey. This is no longer like a few people at a conference or in a room, on the internet talking about something that sure is true. This is bringing like the whole rest of the, world in on the conversation, and that we're going to go through these stages. And each stage is going to be like, oh my God, right? And to a certain extent, that's for the people who haven't been following along. For those of us who've been following along, like, oh, finally, right? It's the, come on, You're waiting for the big one, because you know that the more you see, the closer we get to something that's finally hitting to a disclosure event. So where we're at with this is there's going to be a number of stages. And every stage is going to change a perception of where we were at the stage before that will make the previous stage irrelevant. But because everyone's going along in these stages in real time, it won't matter. All that will matter is the stage that we're in at that moment. That will take everybody's focus and attention. So where we're at right now is that we've gotten, I think, like The video thing, the Pentagon video thing, might be the first actual admission by the Defense Department that we actually have video of, unidentified aerial phenomenon for real, and that's for real. I think that might be the first time they've ever copped to it, like forever. The more we're going to move through these stages, and the end stage is some form of total disclosure. Now, when I say total, I don't necessarily mean that we're going to get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God, for everything that's ever occurred for the past 70 years and exactly where we're at with that.
No, I'm
saying that. I don't think we're going to get that. But we will get a place where we get past the trade embargo, the travel embargo, the truth embargo, and the consciousness embargo. And there's this interaction between Terrans and extraterrestrial species economically, the trade system that will open up intergalactically so that people who are in business here will have a whole nother set of customers off-world that want to buy their stuff for like really ridiculously expensive prices. And so as a planet, we're going to be able to like move into this just like crazy economic gold era that we've never seen before. And this is all pre-planned.
Yes.
Keep in mind, this is all pre-planned by those who oversee all that is, right? It's been decided that this is where we're going. So it's going to get. Let me quote my brigadier general on this one. Right, when he and I were discussing this 2 years ago, how this was going to roll, and he said to me, quoting me, he said, "It's going to get crazier and crazier and crazier. Just when you think it can't get any crazier, it's going to get crazier and crazier,
and then crazier."
And when you think it is finally at the place that it is the most crazy that it could possibly get, it will get crazier. In order to steer it to a place where we can have this disclosure event, it has to get crazier. Right? It has to be so crazy that when it's finally aliens, people go, I knew aliens was going to be next. Didn't I tell you, dude? Aliens was going to be next? Didn't I tell you?
Murder hornets, then aliens.
Murder hornets.
Right. Asteroid.
Well, maybe that's why you were saying like you were saying, like the recent release from the Pentagon of the videos happened at a really interesting time where all this crazy shit was going down. Maybe that's why it didn't make such a splash. I don't know.
We're going to get more. We're going to get that answer right after this break. All right, Randy. So tell us your opinion of those UAPs by the Pentagon.
So I pay pretty close attention to all of the news feed stories that have anything to do with even suggesting legitimate sightings, UFO sightings, UAP sightings, or discussions about alien life, alien invasions, or so forth. And I have an app that like finds the keywords for me. So anytime there's a story that comes up that has these keywords in them, it comes through my feed. So I pretty much read all the stories that go around on the news feeds that have anything to do with extraterrestrials or invasions or space or threats to planet Earth or so forth. So what we're finding is that there is this increasing curve in these stories. There's an increasing number of them. There's an increasing discussion in these stories of the same thing over and over again. We have been hearing more about near missing asteroids this year than we have heard about near missing asteroids in the last 20 years of our existence. We're hearing more discussion about what is if alien life is like this? What if alien life is like this? What if these guys happen to say it's like that? What's the latest in this theoretical propulsion technology that we're thinking about? What's the latest that's happening in what we understand about planet Mars, the other planets here? So how many more exoplanets that look like they have water and vegetation and could sustain life have we discovered, this month? And all of those things, absolutely every single one of those things is on the uptick, just steadily. So I think we're right where we're supposed to be, which is in the midst of an increasing number of those stories being talked about. So we're just going to see more of them. You're just going to see more conversations, and so
slow
this is what we're
drip
getting.
disclosure is what we're getting right now. We're getting
Yeah.
that's how you prepare people for the big news when it happens.
I'm fascinated with this